welcome to Rooftop Conversations. So, honestly, in my childhood, I've met some amazing people who have gone on to do incredible things, and this is one of the people I've met. Honestly, once again, so everyone who comes on the show, I meet randomly or through like some kind of chance, and it's like that's the most beautiful part about my life is that I meet so many awesome people in the most incredible ways. So the next person I'm interviewing today is Kadijah Porter, and she's super amazing. And I'm gonna let Kadijah take it away on introducing herself. So Kadijah, feel free to say whatever you have to say about yourself and introduce yourself to the show.
Okay, well, hi May. Thank you so much for having me. As May just said, I'm Kadijah, and I am just an aspiring 26-year-old. I'm just not really sure what I want to do, but I like anything that involves art and creativity. And I also have a degree in journalism, so I'm really looking forward to this interview and just seeing how it flows, and just looking forward to having a lot of fun, and hope you guys enjoy. So thank you, May, for having me.
No problem. And I think like you're such an amazing person. Like I've seen your Instagram. It's aesthetically pleasing. We're gonna definitely talk about more about this competition that you're in as the interview goes along. But of course, like this is an interview to profile like the tons of people in my life. And Khadijah, in your own words, I would love to hear the story about how we met. And of course, okay, and everyone's been a little too easy on me, I feel, with this question. But your honest first impression of me.
Well, I had a very good first impression of you, so I'm not gonna lie about that. We met in high school, and it was at Tiff's birthday party. I remember we went to Jekyll and Hyde, and man, I can't remember what year it was, so don't quote me on it. I just know we were in high school for sure. It may have been for her 16th birthday, may have been after or maybe even before. I don't remember, to be honest with you. I just know it was during high school. And I remember we were sitting at the table, and it was just all these Halloween decorations. And that was fine. I was okay with that because Tiff is born in October, so that's like perfectly fine. But for me, at least in high school, I wasn't very sociable. I didn't really like to speak to people, meet people, because I was just really shy, and I was always just like, oh my god, what if they don't like me? What if like this? The mind of a teenager typically. But when I met May, I didn't get any forewarnings. I didn't get any, like, how some people, like, they have those friends where they're like, oh, this is my friend, but they're kind of like this, da da da. Like, Tiff didn't give us any of that. So when I met you, you were just like super bubbly, super like inviting, sociable, outgoing. Like, I think you were even sitting next to me, and we were just chatting, and I was like, okay, I like this girl. Like, normally when I meet people the first time, I'm always just like, okay, I'm gonna get to know them. I don't really know. I don't usually ever like click with someone when I first meet them, but when I met you, it was just like, oh my god, I like this girl. She's so chill. She's so funny. Like, I had a good time. You were just talking, and everything was just fun. And I was like, you know what? Honestly, like, if I see her again, which we eventually did end up seeing each other, we stayed in touch. If I see her again, like, I'm gonna be okay with that because she's mad cool. Like, and then just seeing your own personal growth, like, through social media, and just like how ambitious you are and how motivated you are, and just everything that you put your mind to, you go for it. And I think that's really inspirational, especially like since we were teenagers, because most people in the teenage years, they're just very superficial. They don't really know who they are, what they want to be, which is understandable. Like, you're still developing mentally and growing and all that stuff, but I never got that vibe from you. Like, as long as I've seen and witnessed your growth, like, you've always just been very like outspoken, outgoing, and just whatever you put your mind to, you're gonna do it. And I think that's really amazing.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate, and I honestly, same goes for you. I mean, I definitely believe in like vibrations. Like, I think people do give off certain vibrations and certain energies, and I think like since I was younger, I've always knew like who I should associate myself with, who I shouldn't, and I guess, and definitely like something about you appealed to me, and of course that's why we're still in touch. That's why we're still like hunting each other on social media. Definitely all your work has been great, and likewise, like, you're someone who's so creative, but you're so focused, and like I love seeing your growth from like being in high school, going to college, and now post grad. It's like an amazing journey that you've also been in too. So yeah, so Tiffany not was. Tiffany is my best friend. We still hang out to this day. I've known her since I was in kindergarten, and Tiff and Kadijah went to high school together while I decided to go to another school. And so, speaking of high school, we did meet at Tiff Sweet 16. So you were right.
Okay, it
You were
was
like
16.
no, it was 16. You were right. So we did meet at Tiff Sweet 16, and so it was funny because I did. So I interviewed one of your friends earlier in one of my episodes who also went to your school, your high school, and so you went to a private Catholic high school, and it was funny because my mom I told her today, so I gave her this, I told her this today. I was like, my mom was so reluctant of me going to Tiff's birthday because she goes, May, she's gonna be the only one you know. Are you sure you want to go? Catholic private high school. I don't know. Like my mom had this really negative impression about it. She thought it was gonna be all very stuck up rich kids who went there, and I just wouldn't get along with anybody. But obviously that wasn't the case. I would like to think I got along with the majority of Tiff's birthday guests, because I still keep in touch with a majority of them till this day. So I think I think I did well for myself for being an outsider to that party. But speaking of which, so I would love to actually ask you about your experiences going to Catholic private high school in New York City and how that was like. Like, so with the current Black Lives Matter movement and the uprising, a lot of conversations about diversity is happening in social media. So from things like how to diversify corporations, how to diversify, nonprofits, how to diversify even your social media feed. But a lot of what people are exposing these days is private schools and how racially segregated they have been, and also how the treatment of non persons of color, especially Black and brown kids, have been in these schools, whether it's through teachers, administrations, or even amongst the student body. So I'd love to hear, and of course, you don't have to disclose where you went to high school, but if you can, free for all, let's just say the truth if you want to. But I would love to hear about your experiences going to private Catholic high school, and if any of those instances have ring true, maybe you had a good experience, or I would just like to hear about that as well, or tell me about your experiences, good, bad, or if they have resonated with a lot of the stories that have been coming out.
Okay, so I know the reason why. I mean, of course, because there's history, but the reason why we're bringing this up is because of the petition that recently went around, which I personally kudos to that girl because it's crazy that I graduated high school, I want to say, oh my God, 8 years ago. Wow, that just hit me. Okay, and unfortunately, that sentiment amongst students of color has not changed. I went to Catholic school all my life. So growing up, I was very used to being one of the few Black people in my grade. But at least in elementary, middle school, it was other people of color. So it wasn't I was introduced to the dynamic between white people, whether they're in the administration or in the student body or whatever. Not necessarily that early. Yeah, I had white teachers, but it was just okay, I was a child. I didn't really understand much until I got older. And then I could reflect on certain things and just be oh, okay, whatever. That's what that was. This is how I felt about it. This is how I reflected on it. My first personal experience with being in a predominantly white space came when I went to SVF. And I'd never heard of the school. I never knew what it was. I was used to the schools that were around me, which were Notre Dame, and then also hearing about Cathedral and St. Jean's, where they have a predominantly larger population of students of color. So I was just okay, I don't know what St. Vincent Ferrer is, but this was the best deal, I guess, in terms of the schools that I got accepted to when I took the tax exam. And I was actually accepted into the honors program there. for me, what I realized was that, yes, I was used to being on the honor roll. I was used to getting good grades in school, so it wasn't surprising to me. But the thing that shocked me was that I was one of the very, very few students of color, if not black students. So for me, it was just like, oh, okay, I did pretty well. I'm not surprised by that because I've always done well in school, but this is awkward. Like, I don't really even see anyone that looks like me. Like, I remember my freshman year, um, being in English classes. I was in honors English freshman year, and we were reading books that were, more advanced for the grade level compared to the other students in the other ninth grade English level classes. And it was just always so awkward because I was literally the only black girl in that class. And it didn't really hit me at first until we started reading books where race was brought up. And I'm just like sitting here like, oh my gosh, please don't bring up anything race related. I'm the only black girl in this class. I've got to keep my cool. I've got to be the one who quote unquote represents all of the black students in the school, because it's not like there's a lot of us in the honors and scholars program. So it was always a very uncomfortable experience. And I just remember, yes, I have to focus on my work. I have to do what I came here to do because that's ultimately what I'm going to do. But in the back of my mind, I was always thinking to myself, like, wow, I'm the only black one here. And if I am the only black one here, then it's like there's at least maybe one or two other people of color. But even then, I'm just like, okay, but I'm the black one. I'm not the Latina, I'm not the Asian student. That's a completely different experience. Not even considering how they may have felt being one of the only in our classroom setting, but it always felt like it was intentional for the white students to be propped up to a certain level and be seen at a certain level in the school compared to the other minority students who I knew were working just as hard, who wanted to be in the honors classes, but they always got these excuses where it's like, oh, you have to have a certain GPA. That student gets that GPA. Okay, so now I want to be in the honors classes. Oh, well, the class is full. Maybe you can try next semester. Always just a runaround. At least this is what I've heard from other students of color who were aspiring to be in honors classes, even if they weren't in the honors or the scholar program. But yet you have a white girl who comes here from another school. Her grades may or may not be as good as a student of colors, but because they're a white student and they want the white students to have, the really good looking transcripts, they want them to be in the honors and AP classes and have that recommendation and that foundation to enter into a good school. Because it is a college prep school. They're automatically in the honors program, whether or not their grades are that well. And then they already have a clique that they're in with all the white girls. We used to call them the Westchester girls, even though only a few of them lived in Westchester. A lot of them didn't live in Westchester. A lot of them lived in Manhattan. So it was like, okay, you guys are the Westchester girls or the white girls, but really the only thing that you have in common is that you're white. And it was very obvious, they would sit together, they would be together, and then it's some of them, if they did interact with other students of color or other students that weren't in the honors and scholars program, it was just because it was a general class. Everyone had to take this class. It wasn't an honors class. It wasn't an AP class or anything like that. So I won't say that they didn't interact with the other members of the student body, but I will say that there was obvious separation, division, and there was an obvious distinction in who was top of the student hierarchy, and it was always the white students. So, seeing that, and then also knowing that you are someone who is qualified based on the basics of what it is to be in the honors or scholars program, but because you don't have skin color, you're just not going to be accepted into it. And it's okay, well, why? For me, I can't say that I wasn't accepted into it because I was an honor student. But I can just say that because other people who weren't in it, they would tell me their stories about how they had to do this. and do that, and they weren't getting the same like privileges as like other white students who would transfer over, whether they had the grades or not, be there. So I'm just like, okay, I can understand that frustration. I can understand, like, you know, occasionally they throw you into an honors class because I guess if you asked enough, they would just, I guess, throw you a bone. But like, it was very obvious who they were catering to and who was part of the hierarchy and who was going to have, you know, stuff kind of like given to them whether they deserved it or not. So yeah, just seeing that was very like disheartening. But at the same time, I can't say that I didn't benefit from being in the honors program. I can't say that there weren't things that I didn't get to learn or have an upper hand at. But I can tell you that I was one of the very, very few students of color. And even in the brochures for the schools, it wasn't like there was much diversity. Like, it was just, everything was, if you got like a pamphlet from the school, it was nothing but like white girls, pretty much. So
Yeah, no, I can actually. So, fun fact: I actually, because I went to Catholic elementary middle school with Tiff actually, and they, I had no plans to go to Catholic school. Like, my parents were like, "We don't have money for this. You're gonna go to public school. Just you can't be in the system anymore." I also had my own personal like issues with being in Catholic school and things like that as well. So, but they made like my school forced me to take the tax exam, and one of the schools I did apply to was actually your high school. And I do remember, like, so I applied to that school, Cathedral, which did have more of a population of women, like women of color or femmes of color at the time that I applied, and then I also applied to Dominican Academy, which was, let's just say it was an open house, and I you can clearly tell that I didn't belong there. Like, it was just awkward for me to be there. But so anyway, so I ended up going to public school, but I do remember like the brochures were very, very, very white for your school. I was like, oh, okay, this is, but you know, I mean, I checked it out because my best friend at the time was going, and so I was like, oh, okay, this is where she's gonna go to school. Cool, okay. Um, but yeah, no, and it's actually like kind of disheartening because the stories that you're telling are also the same stories that I've heard from other people that have gone to your school, right? So like the people I still talk to have had stories that are similar or at least resonated with that story. And then likewise, you know, other schools are actually coming. So there's like this thing on Instagram now where it's like they're exposing like different students of color are exposing the different private schools they've been to, like all around the country. So New York, California, all over, and they're kind of like exposing like certain stories that they've had with like administration being racist or biased, teachers, students, you know, bullies that they've had, experiences, and they're coming out. So it's not just your school, but like a whole bunch of other schools that are now being exposed for this, and it's kind of disheartening and like upsetting actually for me to hear your story and to also hear those stories because like this is coming from childhood. It's like not even like I mean yes, you're a teenager in high school, but like still it's this stuff is rooted in supposed to be what's your foundational years. Like that's kind of horrible for me. And just hearing that story that you're telling me, right, about like there's so many students that you know who had the grades, who had the credentials, who had the qualifications to get into the honors classes, but are denied because of, you know, white supremacist nonsense. You know what I mean? It's like it's literally so. It's like it makes me angry to hear like what you had to say just now because I didn't hear. I heard like sprinklings of stories from the people that I've talked to at your school, but not in that detail. And I didn't even know that was like a thing where like they would prioritize white students over students of color into these honor classes. Like that's honestly like, and it's just interesting that like they continue to do this, like, because you said that there was a petition going around about your school from a student that graduated in 2016. That's 4 years after you graduated from high school, and it's still going on, and who knows what could be going on today with that school. So that's, like, ridiculous to hear that this is going on. And, yeah, I mean, like, and it's actually interesting because I actually just recently unfollowed someone from your school who I had also known from childhood, and this person is posting like really xenophobic memes about, you know, the BLM movement, about Donald Trump, there was a meme about, something about referring to the coronavirus as what's called the Chinese virus. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't follow this person anymore. I'm not going to disclose their name,
I have a
but
feeling I know who it
I
is.
think you probably know, but I had to unfollow this person. I was like, and this is like, and she went to the school that you were referring to. And I'm just like, wow, so it's not just the students that, I mean, I'm sorry, not the administration that has this rhetoric, but apparently also students, and this person is the same age as the both of us. So it's not like this person's like, oh no, they're old school, whatever. No, this person is the same age as you and I, you know what I mean? And that's just ridiculous that like, this is the mentality that a lot of people have. And I'm like, I'm really sorry that you had to like go through that. You know what I mean? I think like, and like you and your colleagues had to go through that. Like, that's not fair at all. And like, it shouldn't have to be that way. You know what I mean? Especially for people who are in private school, like you should not have to feel ostracized, or you shouldn't have to be denied certain things because of like who you are. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just think like I'm hearing this for the first time and I'm in shock right now. Like I just don't know even what to say because it's just so like frustrating and angry for me. Like it's just like really like this is going on in a school where where students are supposed to be like protected and getting college prep and like being able to have the same opportunities. Yeah. And okay, moving on to the topic because this is getting me angry.
Yeah,
oh my
I
God,
have like
wow.
so many stories for days, and I'm not
Oh my
gonna
God.
lie, I had like
Yeah.
a lot of resentment when I graduated high school because I was just like, okay, your mind at 14 versus your mind at 18 are like two completely different mindsets. Of course, your brain is still developing, but it was like when I process and analyze a lot of these stories, and even like again being in the honors classes and just hearing like some of the racist rhetoric that like these girls would think, like, they'd smile in your face and act like they're your friend. And I could tell you stories about things that I've heard that it's like, whoa, you would probably think I was lying based on some of the things that I've heard. And I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like, they're just so comfortable saying this. Or, like, even if they think that you're not listening, or if they think that, it's not just like administration, it was like students as well. So, I have stories for days, but I'm just not even going to keep, like.
No, yeah, definitely. And I'm like, I wouldn't want you to like even like relive those stories either. You know what I mean? Because that's just horrible. Oh my God. But well, shifting gears, like, so after high school, you ended up going to a really great university, and you mentioned you do journalism. But I just want to hear like how you got into. So you started in journalism, but you are also now pursuing a career in web design and development. And I would love to hear like how that shift happened and like how you got into that field. Because honestly, STEM is such an up and coming field, and I'm so jealous that you do this kind of work. Like, it's so awesome and so cool. I know like really basic HT about CSS, and I wish I could have continued on with it, but I don't know. I don't have the capabilities. So every time I see people do these like cool things with like coding, it's super awesome and super great. So like, I would love to hear like how you went from like Well, how did you decide on a career in journalism, and then like how did you shift into a career in web design and graphic design?
So originally, when I graduated high school, I was looking into psychology programs. So I actually ended up getting accepted into St. John's University for psychology, and it was interesting because I realized that I wanted to help people and that I wanted to do something good, but then it was just like, you have to spend this amount of years in school, and are you sure this is what you want to do? So I really had to sit down with myself and have a real conversation at I want to say I was like still 18, maybe 19 at this point, and I really had to sit and think, like, what do you like to do, what are you good at, and what do you see yourself doing? So I quickly decided after my first semester freshman year that I didn't want to be a psychology student anymore. And I switched over to journalism because I realized that I really like to write. Writing was something that I did very well in school. And why stray away from that if that's something that you've always excelled in? I had personal experiences there at St. John's that, made me uncomfortable in the journalism program because a lot of the teachers were also white, and they have like the standard of like journalism, which also didn't really sit well with me because I'm just like, okay, if journalism is about reporting the truth, why do I have to like write it in such a subjective way where I should be telling the truth, right? Like, why do I have to do this? So it was just like a lot of ethical things that I didn't really care for. So I was just at the point where, what, I need to graduate. I'm just not trying to be in school anymore. I just want my degree. And if I end up doing journalism after the fact, then like I do. If I don't, then I don't. So I had an internship in college where I was doing social media marketing for the Department of Health. And I really genuinely enjoyed that. And my mentor, supervisor at the time, but my mentor, I still call her my mentor to this day, she encouraged me to, network with people who were doing stuff in journalism and, to network with the press department while I was there at the Department of Health. But I actually got really into the advertising aspect of, the work that I was doing. So I still kind of dabbled in journalism where I was writing things and I was, dealing with putting ads in the newspaper, I guess, and ended up getting my first job after my internship where I was doing marketing. And it was via social media, and it was, also dealing with like advertising. I would also do like on camera interviews because the place where I was working, people would come and they would want to see the institution and they needed someone to represent the institution. So that's what I did. I would do like on camera interviews and stuff like that. And I have some of that stuff under my belt. So I really enjoy interviewing and I really enjoy, the experience that I got. But my heart was really in the creative aspect of it. So I was in charge of designing the newsletter for the organization. And with that, I realized that I had skills in, graphic design and coding as well. And I had taught myself these skills when I had a MySpace page, and then also when I was on Tumblr. Yeah, MySpace, super throwback. And so on Tumblr, whenever I would, make changes to my profile, people would always message me like, "Oh my goodness, I love this. I love the way that your profile looks. Like, this is so cool." And I never really had gotten compliments on like my quote unquote artwork before. And at the time, I was in high school. I didn't know that this was coding. I just knew that people really liked what I put out there. So realizing that, part of my responsibility with marketing was designing and putting together this newsletter and also, working on their social media pages, I was just like, okay, well, I really enjoy the fact that I get to be somewhat creative, not complete creative control, but somewhat creative. And it was just something that I was just like, why did I ever stop doing? So another job that I had after, I was working in the medical field, so it's like not too far from what I was doing with the Department of Health, but this time I was more active in research. And I had told them that, I have a journalism degree. I have like experience with like video editing and, writing and stuff like that. And they took a chance on me. I got to design, some of the posters and the flyers and stuff. So it was like things that I had experience in, but it wasn't like what my quote unquote area of expertise was. It wasn't until I had the responsibility of designing a web page for one of their studies and also like creating a logo for one of their studies where I was kind of just like, whoa, I have these skills and I actually really enjoy doing this. So I had to go back to my teenage years and remember like the basic HTML, CSS stuff that I was doing on MySpace. And once I realized that I remembered this stuff and I could do it, I was just like, okay, no one's telling me that I can't do this. I'm going to build this web page and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And literally because I pushed myself and I just, received the guidance from God as He was just like guiding me to design this web page. I was like, I don't know if I could do this, but God was like, yes, you can. And I ended up designing the web page for them. And I was like, wow, I really like doing this. It allowed me to be so creative. It pushed me, it motivated me to do things that I knew that I was capable of doing. And I also got to design other web pages and also include it on my LinkedIn page, so I'm going to definitely use that to my advantage. But that's what ultimately got me into coding and deciding that I wanted to study it more and learn like other programming languages. So right now I'm still learning JavaScript and how to use it. Something that I never thought that I would ever learn how to do, but I'm kind of just like, okay, if you can teach yourself HTML and CSS, you can learn JavaScript. So whatever classes that I can take, especially if they're free, because everything that's going on right now, free is the best. Um, I'm gonna learn how to do it because it's a necessary skill. It's a growing field, and there's so much opportunity in working on this and building it. And all I have to do is just take the time to continue to learn and build and grow from it. So I've just been having fun, and so far during this pandemic, just learning how to update my skills and seeing where it takes me. Anything that I can do, because I have a lot of experience and working on that, and I know that I'll be able to build my coding skills along the way. So I just want to do that, and eventually what happens happens. But it's been an interesting journey.
Honestly, that is like the okay. I'm like hearing all this stuff, and I'm like, wow, that is so cool. And first of all, I love that you mentioned MySpace and Tumblr because everyone used to write it off as like, oh yeah, they were just social media sites, but no, like people learned how to code there. Like I remember like getting the wallpaper from my MySpace, making sure everything looked great, and like, but I didn't know that was like HTML. I just thought it was like copy
Yeah.
pasting, typing in random codes for me to like make my background or play music at like in the beat, like when you go to my MySpace page. But it's it taught a lot of young people a lot of these like valuable skills, and you even see now like how tech is becoming like the new frontier for like not just, like for everybody, but of course like young people specifically. Like you see young people using tech to like host blogs, or young people using tech to use like social media to their advantage, right? Through like Instagram activism or Instagram promotion. YouTubers are out there. Honestly, like this is I sound old for saying this. TikTok, like I don't even know how to use it. Like I like it's just
Same.
I don't know. I'm like, but I see like these young people create like actual like. I mean, as much as people like to downplay TikTok, and obviously that comes from like ageism and all of that, but like they're actually really good. Like they're professionally done, and like I'm just like wow. And I can agree. Like coding is like it is the new frontier. And it's just interesting because so I went to an engineering college, and so there were like a lot of people I knew from like computer science programs and computer engineering programs who did this type of work, but they always kind of made it seem like it's like STEM, and there's like no, it's like so rigid and so like no creates like no room for creativity. But the way that you described coding to me, that was awesome. Where you kind of was just like, this is a room for me to be. This is a method for me to be creative and to hone that aspect into my passions. And like it's just interesting to see that intersection between STEM and like the arts, where yes, you can use STEM as a mechanism to express your creativity and to do all that, and that's like amazing. That's what you do, and like honestly, like women in coding, especially like black and brown women in coding, it's like it's such a it's like because coding is such a male dominated, white dominated field. It's like this is it's amazing to see women coders, especially women of color coders, especially like black and brown women coders. So it's like awesome that you're doing this work. And yeah, like I'm actually like after this interview, I'm gonna go on your LinkedIn page to see about like to see all your different sites because I'm like so curious about it and definitely like would love to like learn how to do that, especially now like like and I think coding too like it's a skill that you can do from home, especially now with the pandemic going on. No one feels really comfortable like going back to a traditional 9 to 5, going back to working in a traditional office, and people are now looking for new skills to learn. And coding is definitely like that field that people are going to look towards. Like this is a job that like this is a field that I can definitely go into. Um, but yeah, speaking about creativity, so I'm gonna tell people about this because I'm super stoked for you. First of all, your pictures on this page are amazing. I'm like, I need you to help me do my pictures. Like, just like I don't know, I need help aesthetically with like my Instagram page. So definitely, we're gonna have to talk about that. But you're currently competing for Maxim's Cover Girl competition, which is like super cool. Maxim's like a big like women. Like when I think Maxim, I think like hot women, if that makes sense. I don't know if that sounds like objectifying, but like I just think like I don't know. It's just like, and I'm not even like downplaying it. Like I want to be on Maxim myself. You know what I mean? Like that's like how like I just think like you have to be like this cool, powerful girl, like woman, and like you just have like all this like good energy. I don't know. Like that's what I see when I think of Maxim. I think of like really strong women, just like posing, and like it's just like that's who I want to be when I see these covers. And of course, like you're the like it to me at least the like was it the personification of those qualities. So I would love to hear like how you first of all how you found out about this competition and like what motivated you to jump in and what motivated you to compete in this competition.
So this was actually completely random and by chance. I didn't go looking for it. It just popped up on my Instagram feed. I've never seen this ad before. I still have not seen this ad after. But I saw it on my Instagram feed, and I thought at first I thought it was like a joke. I was just like, why would Maxim magazine be looking for someone to be like on their cover? I was like, okay, the inner journalist in me was just like, okay, let me research this, make sure it's not a scam, because this sounds a little bit too good to be true. Like, I don't know if this is real or not. So I thought about it, and at first I ignored it. I was just like, I'm not going to enter this because why would I enter this? I don't even know, like, if I would make it, etc. So it came up again on my Instagram feed, and I saw it, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to take that as a sign that I should at least give it a try. Definitely had to step out of my comfort zone because modeling is something that I've always talked myself out of because I'm just like, I'm not tall enough to do that. You have to be super tall and statuesque to be a model, and yeah, I wasn't blessed with height. I was blessed with a lot of things. Height is not one of them. So it's always been something that people have told me that I should do, and I was kind of just like, again, I don't really know how to get into this. Like, thank you, but it's just something that people have constantly told me that I should get into. So I'm just like, oh, okay, I'll give it a try. I will step out of my comfort zone. It seems to be something that is gravitating towards me, so give it a try. You know, don't eliminate it, just try it out. So I started taking the pictures. I was following all the rules and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, you know, you have to hashtag this by a certain day. You have to do this and that. So for me, again, as I said in the beginning, at least how I was in high school, I'm very, very, very reluctant to ask for like help because honestly, I don't know. I feel like there's a deeper psychological reasoning behind that, but I can't like really get into it because it's probably super deep. But I just feel like I'm the person who will support other people in things that they do. But when it comes to asking others to support myself, I'm just like, I don't really know how to do that. So yeah, it forced me out of my comfort zone and something that I've been learning to do because ever since I turned 26, I was just like, okay, you're not going to be the same person that you were the 25 years before. Like, this is a new Kadijah. You are not the same person that you were for 25 years. You're a different person now. So you got to start like trying new things, looking at the world from a different way. And of course, that's been an entire process. But asking for help was the hardest part of this. Not like taking the pictures, entering the contest. It was asking people to support me in this contest. And I'm just like, okay, you know what? Swallow your pride. Just do it and ask. And so far, you know, I've been surprised by like the people who have voted for me because I'm like, you know, these are people that I went to high school with or like elementary school with, and we haven't spoken in years. We've stayed in touch like via social media, but they are supporting me. And I'm just like, wow, you know, honestly, if I didn't put that out there, you never would have known that like there are people that genuinely support you. And if you ask, they will do it. And you never really know until you try and you put yourself out there. And that's the number one thing that I'm taking away from this contest. So win or lose, hopefully win. God, hopefully I win. You know what? It forced me out of my comfort zone. It forced me to look at the world from a different perspective and realize that, again, even if you feel like you're all alone or you feel like, you know, this is just something that's impossible, if you don't put the energy forth and see what the possibilities can be, you're never going to know what the response or the reaction is going to be. So you just have to take that first step, and taking the initiative is always important. And even if it doesn't turn out the way that you want to, there's a lesson learned in that. So right now, um, in third place, and it's really amazing because they're doing the top 5, and that ends at 11 tonight. So fingers crossed that I remain in third place, or at least remain in top 5. Whatever happens after that, of course, you advance in the competition, but I will have to keep people posted on social media and see, like, what the new rules and the details are in a contest. And of course, I'm going to keep everyone posted and updated, but I'm so grateful for everyone that supported me so far, because it's not something that people have to do, but I really do appreciate people going out of their way to support me. I genuinely appreciate that. And again, win or lose, hopefully win. It's been a great experience so far.
Yeah, no, and like honestly, with this experience with your journalism career transitioning to a web career, with just everything, one thing I've noticed is that you're not afraid to take risks. Like, you're really not afraid to take risks, and that's something that I'm like, like I admire about you so much. Is that like you just go for it, and like both of us, like we're both 26, and it's like you said, like you're still young, you're still like we were figuring out in high school, we're still figuring out now. It's like
Yeah.
like I'm still figuring out, you're still figuring out, but it's like I think that's the most, like that's the beauty of life, and I think that's one of the biggest lessons, at least for me, that this COVID-19 quarantine like situation has taught me, is that there's there's life beyond the world where we like that we were so used to, right? It's like there's life that's bigger and like better than what we were taught to do, that we were expected to do, and like to take those risks. And like I like it's really like I agree. Like I think, well, first of all, your pictures are bomb. Like people would definitely vote for you as is. Like I was like looking at them when I first, I'm like, wait, those pictures are so good that like I need tips. Like after this call, I will need to be like, Kadijah, please teach me how to like pose, because I'm not the most photogenic person at all. But like, yeah, and like and it's, I think it's interesting because like that vulnerability. It's like it's that vulnerability, right? I think that like when you were saying like I'm I love to support people. I will hype people up. I love posting people in my stories. Like they're like I love to promote my friends. But when it comes to me, for anything, like I hate asking for help, and I don't know if it's because like I have to keep the strong facade on, or I have to keep this like it's between, like for me it's like keeping the strong facade, like I can do it, I got it, and like, oh, I don't even think people like me like that to even help me. So it's like, what's the point of even asking? And that's why I'm
Yeah.
so afraid. But it's like what I've noticed, like just like with similarly with you and like your Maxim journey and everything. Like so, as I'm doing this show, this honestly started as like a hobby I was gonna do to kill time during quarantine, and it actually turned out into something I genuinely enjoy doing. And like although I'm like thinking about taking this question out, because like as I'm asking it, I feel really egotistical. But like asking people like what their first impression of me was, I actually asked it because I was like, okay, I'm trying to weed out like a funny story, right? I was like, please, someone say I'm loud, I'm clumsy, I'm a klutz, something like I'm a party. Like I was asking these questions to see who would give me like an embarrassing story, like funny content for the show. Turns out it took like a totally different turn, and there were people like I didn't even expect to even give me these answers. So like I've interviewed people from high school, people I've met in college, and they were all saying like these wonderful things, and I was just like, wait, wow, like this is what you all thought about me, like this is how you saw me. Like I didn't know that. And a lot of it was through social media, like, oh yeah, I've seen you on social media, and like you do this and this, and it's just interesting to see, especially I think especially as women of color, like we're always going to see ourselves in like, I don't want to say a negative light, but like in a way, we have a skewed perception of ourselves because of the fact that like society has, you know, told us that we had to look at ourselves that way. So it's like really surprising to see, like it's surprising to see, but also touching to see like when people do come out to support, and especially like I think for me, and I don't know if this is with you, it's always other women who like hype each other up, who's always supporting each other, and it's like that's like probably one of the best things I've noticed about like this whole thing. But yeah, no, I agree. I think overall with your journey and with your life story, it's like super interesting to hear. Like you take risks and you just don't know where you're going. And like the journey's always there, right? Like And I think like just talking to you in this like past like half hour or so, I'm learning. You're like speaking to me right now. I feel like right now this is something I needed to hear because I actually recently quit my job because and people are probably like, wait, you quit your job during a pandemic when everyone's losing their jobs, and I was just like, yeah, because like it just wasn't serving me anymore. You know what I mean? It wasn't serving my purpose, and like I wanted to like take this time out between this job and I call it my transition period, like between this job and my next job to discover what I really want. Right? Do I really want to be in politics these days? Because honestly, I don't trust the government. Do I really want to be in a nonprofit setting? Because I don't know. There's a nonprofit industrial complex, but like, what else can I do with my life? And like, thank you for sharing that. I feel like this is like a testimony for me. It's like, oh, like you can take these risks. You can like do what you have to do. You're still young, and you can like you don't know what doors are going to open for you. And like, thank you for sharing that. I mean, that really means a lot to me. I know this is going to take a personal turn, but like, this is. I feel like I'm receiving a testimony that I needed to hear right now. I was like, wait, this is like the words I need to hear in this moment because my life is. I think my life right now is just all over the place, but this is the perspective I need to hear. Thank you so much. So we're actually coming up on our hour, and of course, I'm gonna promote the Maxim competition along with this video because that's like definitely something I need to promote. But like, is there anything else any last topics that you want to touch on? Anything that you want me to personally promote for you? Like aside from the Maxim thing, like, in addition to the Maxim thing, what else is there? Your website, any if like there's anyone looking for, do you do like freelancing? Do you do like things like that?
Well, I'm actually interested in starting to freelance so I can build my portfolio more. I feel like if I have the opportunity to work on stuff, then that'll motivate me to do it. Because if it's just like me myself, I'm gonna take my time. I'm not gonna lie, because it's like, again, supporting other people, supporting myself. It's just like two different dynamics. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in like any sort of freelance opportunities, whether it's joining a project or starting one or however that goes. As long as it's leading to something that's great, and we can help each other build and grow. I do have graphic design experience. I do have web design experience. I have journalism experience. I have a lot of experience pretty much. So yeah, I can definitely promote my website, which I also need to work on again because it's a personal venture. I haven't been as active. I've been very like blocked creatively when it comes to it, but I feel like there's a lot of things that I want to do. So my website is Love Kadijah, because I love anything to do with like positivity and just self care and self love. So that's LOVEKAHD as in David IJ.com, and that'll also link you to my YouTube page, which I also need to be more active on, and then my Instagram page, which is OHWKAY_, where you can see a lot of what May was talking about before, and you'll also get a glimpse into my creative mind, and then also the link to the Maxim page where you can vote for me and support if you want to. I definitely will appreciate the support. And my LinkedIn page, which is just my first and last name, so you can see Kadijah, and then my last name is Porter. Find me on LinkedIn and check out my work. And yeah, May, thank you so much, honestly, for the opportunity to just share. And I feel like I've learned a lot, even just interviewing with you right now, and just, again, not underestimating the process. Like, yes, we are 26, we're still young, but we are getting close to 30. And even then, like, I've heard from people in their 30s, like, you're still kind of in your youth until you hit 35, so we've got 9 more years. But even then, it's just like, that's not even where life begins. And like, being blessed to see another day is always an amazing thing, because that means that you continue to have a purpose here on this earth. And it's just a beautiful thing for everyone to just come together, work together, learn from each other, because that's what life is all about. And just supporting and uplifting each other, because that's just the most beautiful thing that you can do. You never know how it can help someone or support someone, or what it'll mean to someone. So thank you so much for having me on here. I really appreciate it. I never thought that I would be, the person being interviewed. I like to do the interviewing, but it's great either way. So thank you so much for having me. I really had fun.
No problem. Honestly, like, it's an honor for me to interview. You're definitely someone that I've always just seen and admired from afar, like through social media, like knowing you since you were 16. Well, we were like 15, 16 years old at the time, and
Yeah,
like seeing that, like, what? Oh my God, wait, I've known you for 10 years.
I know. That's so
Oh my
like
God.
that's how I felt when I said, "Wait, I graduated high school 8 years ago." Like I felt like, whoa.
Wait, I'm sorry. I know, like, wow, I had to do a pause. Like, wait, I really knew her for 10 years. Okay, wow. Time goes by so fast. But I think that's what it says. Like, at this point, like, I think that's, like you were saying, right? Like, your youth isn't even, like, you still have your youth in your 30s, but that's not even, like, the end of it. You know what I mean? Because, like, I think, like, as, like, growing up, I was always like very type A perfectionist. I was like, I have to hit these milestones by this time. Like, I have to get my first job here. I have to be successful this part. Clearly, like, I'm not successful, but like, what does that even mean anymore? You know what I mean? Like, what does success look like? And it's like that one thing that COVID's taught me is to be less of like to like lessen my expectations of what society has told me I should be. Like, lessen my expectations, or lessen the societal expectations on myself, and kind of craft my own path, right? So, like, who knows? By the time I'm 40, I'm probably gonna still figure this all out. Like, I'm still gonna be figuring it out. Like, I don't even know, I don't even know what life will take me at this point. But no, it's honestly the biggest pleasure, Khadijah, for me to interview you. Like, this is actually, I was actually working up the courage to be like, oh, how can I ask her? Because I was like, because like I didn't want to come out the blue like, hey, do you want to do this interview? But like, I'm glad that it kind of all worked out. So thank you, if anything, and thank you so much for being so vulnerable and being so open and transparent about your experiences at St. Vincent's. I know that was a heavy story to tell, and I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing that with everyone on this platform. And of course, I'll link all your pages and like all the URLs down below in the bio, because now I'm on YouTube because Instagram IGTV does not work for me anymore. I'm annoyed by that. And like,
You're moving on
I'm
to bigger, better things. It's
all right.
okay.
If it has to be YouTube, and once again, I'm scared to put myself on YouTube because I'm like awkward. Like, you're saying you're used to doing the interviewing. I can't interview. I'm so rusty, and I'm just like, but yeah, I'm so awkward on screen. And this is like my 10th interview so far. And I still haven't honed up the craft. So anyway, thank you, Kadijah, for joining. I appreciate it. I'll see you. Well, hopefully, we definitely need to reunite after this nonsense like clears.
Oh
like,
yeah, for sure.
After,
Definitely.
yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Of course.
Since the filming of this episode, Kadijah has produced her own podcast called OK Talks, sponsored by Anchor Podcast. OK Talks can be found wherever podcasts are streamed and found, such as Apple Music and Spotify. Please tune in